Hey, welcome back to the videos. Last week we were talking about tremolo style and how effective that is for slower tempo tunes, and we explored some notes from a harmonized G scale and applied them to the chord shapes. A lot of tremolo style and three-finger bluegrass banjo is dependent on borrowing notes out of the chord shapes, but there are also notes out of the scale. So we looked at a G scale on the first string, and then we added the third string, and it wound up that these notes were G and B, and those scale notes in a G scale are 3 notes apart. So we refer to those as harmonized scale notes. I've heard them called harmonized pairs or pairing of harmonized scale, whatever you want to call it. They're just 2 notes out of a G scale a certain distance apart, and they're paired up together, and you play with those 2 notes to come up with various musical phrases. But what we're going to do is apply this to the tremolo style. And again, how quickly or how rapidly you decide to tremolo, how many notes you decide to squeeze in each measure of the song is up to you. Tremolo doesn't always have to be a steady stream of, say, 30-second notes. You could do 8-note ideas. You could do 16th. I mean, you could just continue to play rapidly. But the main thing is you're taking a song that lends itself to slower tempos, that has a lot of spaces. Spaces by meaning a lot of open-ended areas where a roll, if you played a roll in that area, it would be so spread apart that the notes would just seem like they don't adhere to each other very well, and it just doesn't sound like it really works. Tremolo is great for that. Sometimes you can play tremolo even in medium tempo songs just because it sounds great, But what I want to do in this video is kind of expand on what we've established in the previous video. And instead of just taking a harmonized scale, which are also notes out of the chords that occur in the key of G, let's play around and do a little more complicated arrangements of this tremolo. Maybe add some more different kind of harmonized notes, and we'll just explore what we can do. I know we only have 10 minutes in the video, so let's just jump right on it. What I'm going to do is kind of add some more chord tones from some of these positions that we're going to play. First thing I'm going to do is actually do a suspended chord, and we don't have time in this video, but a suspended chord usually substitutes one of the notes of your major chord triads. If you're talking about major chords, it will take one of the 3 essential notes and replace it with another note of the scale. So I may have explained this in some of the chord videos, Lick of the Week, but if not, maybe that'll be something to touch on later. But what I'm going to do is drop in this C note in front of the B note. So what I'm going to do is, in essence, cancel out that B note. And when I do this tremolo, I'm going to include the 2nd string also. So it's going to be a 3-note tremolo. So I'm still tremoloing the B and the G, but I'll also have a D note on the 2nd string. But if you wanted to eliminate the 2nd, you can do that, but I think it's a little more pleasing to the ear to have a larger chord sound. So I'm tremoloing the 3rd string with the thumb. Bottom 2 strings are being pinched with these 2 fingers. Now you notice I'm hammering on to that note, but you could just add it. I just like the sound of the hammer being a little more forceful. Alright, now what about this next harmonized position? There's a lot of variations, ways you could drop in notes. But let's save this suspended chord here for just the F position, what I call the number 1 chord shape. Now let me see if I can add that idea into any number 1 shape chord that I encounter in this exercise. If you remember from the previous video, we walked our way up. Okay, here's a C position. There's a D position. position, but I'm using the same number 1 chord shape each time. And then here's a G up here. Now watch what happens when I add the suspended tone in here. Drop it in occasionally in the tremolo pattern. So it's a really effective means to add a lot of inflected, it's almost like a chord substitution if you were playing rhythm. And obviously, you could use this as a solo technique, but it makes really effective background chordal accompaniment. You can take it as far as you want to go. I mean, there's so many note options, and I'm going to touch on that in some future videos. But I just wanted to kind of build this up slowly. So now we have a suspended note that we can throw in front of the chord position. Okay, now what about the number 2 chord shape, which is also called the D shape? When we're doing tremolos, I was kind of occasionally dropping in a note on the 3rd string just for an effect. But let's try doing this. Instead of isolating the 3rd string and the 1st string as a harmonized pair, let's try adding kind of a bar chord behind the intended chord shape. So we're going to be working out of this number 2 chord shape, this G. But I'm actually, since we're concentrating on 1 and 3, I want to drop a note in from a suspended position back here. So I'm going to actually take the index and bar the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings, keep the 1st string where it's supposed to be right here, and then I'm going to drop in the note that normally occurs in this G chord, which is the 2nd string, 8th fret. Now listen to this. So what we're doing now is actually having a suspended chord already formed and then dropping in the note that returns it to the normal chord. Where when we work out of the number 1 shape, usually you already have the normal chord, and then you drop in the suspended note and then release it. So we're kind of doing this in inverse. Now whenever I encounter a number 2 or a D-shaped chord, I'm going to try to sneak a little bit of this suspended action in here and listen how it changes the entire feel of the chords as I play this tremolo style. So add those 2 ideas in with the tremolo style, playing around with adding suspended tones on the 3rd string out of any number 1 shaped chord, and dropping in from a suspended to a chord shape out of any number 2 chord shape, and you'll have some pretty intense chordal tremolo style ideas that you can use in your solos and backup. I appreciate it. We'll see you next video.